What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another segment for HR Heretics. Today, we are going to talk about Amazon's RTO policy. So let me just lay the scene out. So Andy Jassy, who is Amazon's CEO, wrote a letter on September 16th to the entire company. In the letter, he cited changes he wanted to strengthen the culture. That is like the direct quote. I'm going to paraphrase a few notable lines from the letter, but this is the gist of the thing. So one, great culture is not a birthright, and you have to work at it all the time. Two, we want to operate like the world's greatest startup. And the sub-bullet to this is like he cited bureaucracy. One of the things I haven't seen covered in the news as people have talked about this is he created like this bureaucracy mailbox for people to email if they see process that's slowing the company down or red tape or just bullshit that people have to deal with that doesn't make any sense. Kind of like that one. And then three, the leadership team believes that Amazon can have better org design that emphasizes more speed and ownership, and they can be more connected to each other just as employees, which will emphasize invention and collaboration. So they are making two big changes. The first, which again did not get much coverage in the media, is that they are going to increase the ratio of individual contributors to managers by at least 15% by the end of Q1 of 2025. And number two, the thing that everyone's talking about is they're going to return to the office the way things were before COVID. So, Kelly Dragovich, what's your take?
So few things to unpack here. This is a good one. And we're back to RTO. Nolan.
I can't believe we're talking about it. I saw this again and was like, no way. Like, I don't want to talk about RTO again. And people can't stop talking about it.
I do not like talking. It's been years now. At Pendo, I've already said this is my favorite topic. It was like the least favorite topic that I could ever engage in. Well, we covered this a while back on an episode about the manager ratios, right? Cutting out more middle management, having more makers versus managers, and efficiency. So that's a no-brainer. I think for me, and I'd love your take on this, and I personally got a little beat up at Pendo, and probably rightly so for a few of our communications at one point, that it just seemed very fluffy, right? Like if you read it, it's all about the culture, the story. And I don't really know what the punchline was. I never read, is it 4 days a week? Is it 5? Is it this? It seems...
Oh, it's 5.
Very
it's
fluffy
5.
To me.
And they're having like everywhere, but I think Europe is having like assigned desks again. So this isn't like you get to come in and float. Like this is 5 days a week at your desk, which is assigned to you.
But I never read, right? So my point is, like, this letter, if you're an Amazon employee, it doesn't actually say 5 days. It says the way it was before the pandemic, and it's up to your S-team leader. So the point I'm making is the feedback I've gotten is a lot of these communications can come off as inconclusive and a little fluffy as far as what that means, which then means it's pushed down to managers, right? And the feedback we've gotten is, well, this is great. Now it's going to land on my plate. And what if I do something different than this manager and this team or whatnot? And it creates all sorts of chaos. So that's my first reaction. Do you know what I mean? What do you think about that?
I did some digging before this segment, and in 2016, Amazon had about 600,000 employees. Today, they have 1.6 million. So in 8 years, they've added 1 million net new employees. That is insane. Like, that is absolutely crazy. That's through COVID. That's even post their layoffs. So, look, I mean, Andy Jassy took over from Bezos a couple of years ago. Amazon's going through a tumultuous time. Like, they're dealing with a bunch of regulation problems. They're getting a lot of pressure from other competitors. And I think they're at a crucible moment in the company to where they're looking around being like, what's our next thing? What's our next act? AWS margins, like now that's getting kind of chewed up by other competitors. So when you make a decision like this, and let's specifically talk about RTO first, look, I think he's prepared to lose people who aren't on board. And I think that's like, got to be step one when you're a leader is like, look, people are not going to like this. So great. Like, that's fine for them. They can vote with their feet, as we've said many times. Two is like, I actually do agree that innovation is better had in person. My company's setup is fully remote. And one of the things that we do is we get together 4 times a year to actually like have these moments. I wish we did it more often. Like as somebody who is running a company, it's very small. We're 10 people. And I still wish we were in person more often. But we've made the trade-off to have amazing talent. And this is the trade-off. We've made the trade-off to have amazing talent anywhere in the world, specifically for us, anywhere in the United States. And what Amazon's saying is look, we are no longer willing to make that trade-off. And if you don't like it, you can vote with your feet. And I like that. I like that they're okay saying this is who we are and what we stand for. Now, the thing that I think is challenging to some employees, especially those that have been hired in the last few years, is they were promised either 3 days a week most recently, or they were promised like, hey, you can work anywhere. And that's a rug pull. And I do feel for them. And I do understand like the frustration for those people. But the thing I don't understand is like all of these experts, I think 99% of the content that I've seen about this online is people saying it's a mistake and that it's going to fail and that it's not going to work. And I'm just like, I don't understand where these experts are coming from. It's about a trade-off decision. And they're willing to make the trade-off that says, look, we don't care about the person who's working, in BFE anymore. We expect them to be in the office. And if they don't come in the office, like that's okay with us.
I think this whole thing, like who are these experts? I think that's a farce. How can you be an expert on this? There's not a lot of hindsight to grab onto. And to your point, that we've always said this, clarity first. And it will work. If you're clear on what you are and what you're not, you're going to go through it. There's pros and cons to anything. But if it's clear, you can manage through it and it will work somehow, some way. When it doesn't work, it's very fuzzy, right? When you have different rules for different situations and this and that. And that was my original point. And what gave me a lot of heartache around this when I was in operating role is the judgment part, the gray areas of this. When you have that many employees, and it came off as a little fuzzy to me. That was my only point. And maybe underneath that letter, there is a ton of clarity written down around what this is, what the rules are, etc. I'm just saying when it's fuzzy and then you give managers, team leaders discretion on some of this stuff, you can get a lot of conflict in the system, Nolan, right?
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. Your workforce is both your organization's greatest strength and largest single cost. With Planful, it's easy to unlock the secrets of successful workforce planning so you and your HR team can make the right business decisions. Imagine using data-driven insights to develop accurate forecasts, close hiring gaps, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. Planful lets you collaborate with colleagues in finance to understand the value your employees bring to the table. And the best part, you can get started with Planful in just weeks with minimal help from IT. Plus, with Planful, you get an endless runway. Planful grows with you, no matter how fast or large your team scales. Ready to transform your HR strategy? Join over 1,500 organizations worldwide who trust Planful as their go-to workforce planning software at planful.com/heretics. Real talk, most talent leaders haven't yet cracked how to leverage AI for meaningful impact on their hiring processes and business goals. But the leaders who are effectively using AI to transform their recruiting team's efficiency and quality use Metaview. Metaview is the AI assistant for the interview process. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations, like intakes, interviews, and debriefs, then provides perfectly summarized notes of everything that was discussed. That means your people can focus on creating human connections with candidates during calls and save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. But it's so much more than just a time saver, because perfect notes means perfect data. For every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can make confident, informed decisions, and talent leaders can finally take control of the interview process. Join forward-thinking talent leaders at high-performing organizations like Brex, HelloFresh, and Fora, and check out Metaview. Head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI-enabled in minutes.
So here's the way I read it, Kelly, is that, pre-COVID means 5 days a week. And here's the other thing. So there is a very small line about exceptions. And he says, our expectation is that people will be back in the office outside of extenuating circumstances, or if you already have a remote work exception approved through your S team leader. So I want to talk about this for a second. This is the thing that I don't think people are actually grokking and understanding. There are very important individual contributors at Amazon that have incredible agency to do whatever the hell that they want, and their lives aren't changing at all. The problem is that everybody thinks they're one of those people, and they're not. Just by definition, if you are in the top 5% of your company's employee population, there is 95% of the other population that is not in the top 5%. And people just don't grok this. I think in our culture today, there is this aura of self-importance that isn't just understood. People don't understand where they actually are. And I think a lot of people feel like, well, that should apply to me, and I'm going to be one of those people. And the reality is it doesn't. For the large majority of us, it does not. And so Amazon is actually making a trade-off in which they're actually not even going to take the downside of the trade-off, because the people that are not going to get exceptions, they are okay leaving the company. There's Amazon saying like goodbye. Now for the top 5%, they're going to be like, oh, for sure, we'll give you an exception. Like, no worries. Like, don't go anywhere. Your pay's not going to change. Things are going to be great for you. And that's the thing that I don't think people understand. They're just mad because it doesn't apply to everybody.
And to your point,
it doesn't apply to everybody. That's how the world works.
Right. And when you say that top 5%, right, it's subjective. Oh, well, that's me. And it's interesting because I think there's a double whammy here on this. And I love your reaction to this. The market has changed so much in the past few years in general. We've talked about this many times. And then the pandemic gave everyone the right to work remotely, right? We were all remote, and the market was hot. So, if you were not exceptional, you might have been treated as exceptional when the market was really hot and we were all at home. And now two things are changing at the same time. Not everyone is exceptional. It's an employer's market, more so than not. And the RTO piece is changing. So those things are kind of compounding each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I have a line that I used to use, which is, it feels like the delta between employee expectation and business reality is widening. And, I'm actually surprised by this, because I've said this a million times. All of us know at least a couple of people who are phenomenal that have been having a hard time finding work in this market.
Yes.
And it's, I don't understand why people aren't grokking that businesses are also having a hard time. Like, that's part of the reason why our friends that are great can't find work, is because businesses are having a hard time. And so businesses are having to make hard decisions as well in order to focus more on profitability and growth at the same time, given that they have big expectations. And they also have good competition.
Yes, but it's your frame of reference, right, Nolan? Like, if I have a family and I'm trying to feed them and look for a job, I'm not thinking of Amazon's heartaches as much as I'm thinking about, my own. So there's a human nature element in that too. But I completely agree. When you are used to something, or you want something, or you feel like you're entitled to something, or you need something, the empathy for the business is just not the same. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this. To your point of, will it work or not? I can't wait to see. Will people leave? Are they going to get pushed out? I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and that's my point, is when all these molecules start bumping into each other over the next coming months, that's where the rubber hits the road, not at this high level letter.
Yeah, I believe what will happen here is what happens with all of these like contentious decisions, in which people get really worked up over it for a couple of weeks. The new stasis gets established, and then it's like, great, Amazon's a 5-day-a-week workplace, and we don't ever talk about it again, and they keep operating, and probably operating, with the trade-offs that they know that they're going to make going into it. The last thing I'll say on this topic, Kelly, is one of my former CEOs had this line, and he said, if you don't like it, you can start a company and make those decisions. He said that to me one time when I was complaining about something. And it kind of took me aback in the moment, but I've since processed it and thought about it, and I have done that. And it does turn out that, like, look, if you are unhappy, you can vote with your feet, but this is a tough job market. And it's tough to find exactly what you want in today's world.
Yep. Go listen to the founder mode episode. We talked about this, voting with your feet and being clear of the position you're in and what you think and what you can change and what you can't and what you can put up with. 100%.
Yep. So that's what I got. Let us know what you guys think about this one. We'll keep covering these hot topics as always. HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.